Would tie her hands with a rope, wrap her in a light rug, and beat her until she could barely move. The rug served a dark purpose. It hid the bruises and welts that marred her skin, ensuring that no one could see the evidence of his brutality. Comfort, who once idolized her father, now feared him. She would cower in her room, her heart breaking as she listened to the moans of her mother's cry. Once upon a time, in a typical Nigerian village called Oba, a place where life moved at a gentle pace and the air was thick with the scent of earth and palm wine, and where the people, so few, knew each other by their names, was two girls named Precious and Comfort. Both born into humble families, they grew up side by side, attending the same small schools, shared dreams with each other, and they both played on the muddy paths around the village on every rainy day. They were known and loved by most of the villagers. Precious was the quieter of the two, but always curious, her eyes always wide to wonders of the world around her. Comfort, on the other hand, had fire in her eyes, a spark that made her the leader of their little adventures. They were inseparable, bound by the bond of sisterhood that neither poverty nor distance could sever. But life, as it often does, had other plans. One fateful day, Comfort's father, Jacob, received a job offer that promised to change their lives forever. It was a lucrative opportunity in the city, far away from the dusty roads and simple joys of Oba. Overnight, the family's fortune turned. They left their small mud-walled home and moved into a sprawling mansion made of marble floors and crystal chandeliers. So Comfort, once a village girl, now lived like a princess. As the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the ties between Comfort's family and the village began to fray. Jacob, once a simple and kind man, began to change. The wealth that had fallen into his lap, like the gifts from the gods, soon revealed itself as a curse. He started spending more time with the powerful men of the city, men who measured success by the weight of their wallets and the size of their egos. Jacob, wanting to fit into this new world, allowed their influence to poison his heart. Back in the village, Precious missed her friend. Letters went unanswered and visits were too often and far between. The life of the rich was demanding, and Comfort found herself swept away by it. She now attended a prestigious school where she rubbed shoulders with the children of senators and businessmen. Her new life was a far cry from the one she had known, and slowly the memory of Oba faded into the background. But Jacob's transformation was the most drastic. The man who had once been a loving husband and father became a tyrant in his own home. He was harsh, his temper was quick to flare, and his expectations for his family were unforgiving. Linda, Comfort's mother, bore the brunt of this change. She struggled to adjust to their new life, stumbling over the social graces that were second nature to the city's elite. Her husband's disappointment in her was palpable, and it manifested in the cruelest of ways. Jacob, in his anger, became abusive. He would tie Linda's hands with a rope, wrap her in a light rug, and beat her until she could barely move. The rug served a dark purpose. It hid the bruises and welts marred on her skin, ensuring that no one could see the evidence of his brutality. Comfort, who once idolized her father, now feared him. She would cower in her room, her heart breaking as she listened to the moans of her mother's cry, but be too afraid to intervene. On a beautiful Thursday evening, Jacob had ordered his wife to prepare a feast. "I'll be coming home with some friends," he said. This would be their first time visiting Jacob's house. The sun sets on the city, casting long shadows over the mansion that Jacob's new wealth had bought. Inside, Linda moved, nervously, preparing a feast that she hoped would meet her husband's impossible standard. Jacob had invited 3 of his wealthy associates, men whose approval he craved more than anything. As the men arrived, Linda greeted them with a forced smile, her simple dress a complete contrast to the luxurious excess of her surroundings that she could pass as a maid. "You are welcome to our new home. I've heard only good things from my husband, and I pray God continues to bless you all," she said, her voice wavering with the effort to appear composed. Jacob's anger smeared beneath the surface. His wife's appearance was an embarrassment, a glaring reminder of the life they had left behind. but he kept his rage in check, masking it with a tight smile. "As you can see, my wife has been working tirelessly to make our night special. Please sit and let me freshen up," he said, directing Linda to serve them wine. As Jacob walked away, he caught the whispers of one of his friends. "You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink." The word stung deep and was a blow to Jacob's already fragile ego. This further infuriated Jacob. His hands trembled with anger. After all his warning, Linda still managed to disappoint him. After Jacob had freshened up, Linda invited them to the dining table, where she had prepared a local delicacy, a favorite of the Oba people. The meal that Linda had prepared was a labor of love. She had chosen a dish only served for kings and eaten once a year by the common people in Oba. It was a delicacy filled with rich proteins and adorned with spices that carried the essence of the village. But the dish, while elegant, had a strong, distinctive smell, a smell that was foreign to the refined nose of the city's elite. The men exchanged glances as they ate, their expressions unreadable, but the tension in the room was thick. When the dinner ended and the guests left, their polite words of thanks could not mask the whispers that followed them out the door. Thanking Linda for her hospitality, all they murmured about was the smell that the dish had left on them. As they left, Jacob came back into the house, furious and with his eyes gorging red. "Comfort, get to your room immediately," he said. She trembled as she ran into her room, knowing it is the time of the day and her father was about to terrorize her mother once again. "I gave you a simple task and this is what you have done to me," Jacob roared, his voice echoing through the mansion as he dragged Linda to the corner of their bedroom, his hands trembling with rage, diluting her with slaps and kicks as though it was two men fighting. He opened his wardrobe and out came the rope he uses to tie her hands. Afterwards, he wrapped her in a light rug, laid her facing down and beat her mercilessly. Linda's cry filled the room as Jacob unleashed his anger, kicking and beating her with a ferocity that left her broken on the floor. "I gave my all to be the best wife I could for you today," Linda wailed, her voice choked with pain. "Shut the hell up," Jacob spat, his eyes wild with anger. "You looked like a maid and served city folks a stinking dish, and you call that your best?" Jacob's words were like knives, each one cutting deeper than the last. Comfort huddled behind the door in her room, tears streaming down her face as she listened to her mother's torment. She wanted to scream, to rush out and stop the madness, but she wouldn't dare. Neither would she cry out, or she would take a beating befitting her size from her father.